This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we are the ones who encourage you to like and share them on social media. And now, independent insurance agent Rudy Howard presents The African American Scene, and it's hosted by none other than the one and only, the man himself, Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. Different name, same guy, endeavoring to do the same thing, bring you things to think about and explore topics in depth.
I just about fell out of my chair when you said no longer associated with, Rudy, what did you, the Howard Insurance Company. It's not that anymore. It's just Rudy Howard Independent Insurance Agent. That's like a step up, isn't it?
Well, the Howard Insurance still exists. I'm just not affiliated with it anymore.
Ah.
So that's, so
Okay.
people should know that it still exists, just that its namesake is no longer there.
Right.
But that's fine. I'm doing Medicare and health insurance. And at this age, I can enjoy to slow down a bit and smell roses and tiptoe through the daisies. So, but in any event,
the ability to do so is wonderful.
yeah, it is. I had a long run with that company, so I wish them all the best. Let me give you my good friend Juliet asked me to make this announcement, and I told her I would. So here it is.
Okay.
The Eta Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority wants to know: have you scheduled your mammogram? Women should have a mammogram every year beginning at age 40. Earlier if you have family history of breast cancer. Talk to your health provider. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a time to remind women in our lives to remember to schedule their screening mammograms. Don't let COVID get in the way. Weekend appointments during the month of October are available at the following facilities. Mention AKA when making an appointment, and those facilities are Diagnostic Radiology of the Treasure Coast, 1501 Southeast Leonard Road, Port St. Lucie, 468-7020. That's 468-7020. Diagnostic Radiology of the Treasure Coast. Diagnostic Radiology of the Treasure Coast second location. I'm getting a little tongue-tied here. I don't know why. 2011 South 25th Street, Fort Pierce. Same number, 468-7020. And Vero Radiology, 3725 11th Circle, Vero, 772-562-0163. So if you call any of those facilities and mention the name AKA, I think they're offering a special rate for people who are coming under their community program. I think that's a really awesome thing to do for the ladies of AKA. I happen to know quite a few of them, and they're very good people, very community-minded. Okay, so what I want to talk to you tonight about is Biden's Build Back Better plan. But I also want to throw out, has anybody watched the testimony of General Milley and Secretary Lloyd Austin? It's been very interesting to watch that. They have had a hearing about Afghanistan. I watched as much of it as I could in between the other things that I was trying to do. But I thought it was very interesting. It was very revealing, and they were pretty honest and straightforward. They didn't always agree with President Biden. It was tough to get that out of them, but they basically admitted that they were not necessarily in favor of pulling the troops out. My response is, if you were against pulling the troops out, what would you have done differently? We were there 20 years. So for everybody that is complaining and chastising President Biden for pulling out, what would you have done? And I'm serious about that. Number's 340-1590.
The ones who would make the most noise about it, I'd expect them to come up with a plan. Since they have so much to say about it, let's come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Or what kind of plan should we have come up with? What did we do, folks?
There was a lot of grandstanding. Hawley from Missouri, he grandstanded, and I have to tell you, Tom Cotton is way down on my list of people that I have a favorable opinion of. So I don't know, but I think you have to really do some soul searching and tell me what you would do differently, because to me, he had to come out of there. It was just no thing at all. Steve, how are you, sir?
Good. How are you, Rudy?
Okay.
What I've done differently, I would have left 3 weeks after we beat the Taliban 20 years ago. I would not have stayed and attacked Iraq saying that Saddam Hussein was pro-Al-Qaeda when he actually aided Al-Qaeda and was keeping our northern butt covered. And, of course, Bush, you couldn't tell him anything. He once said that the sign of a strong president is one that's at war. It's in the book called The Family of Secrets by Mara. But no, and nowadays, like I said before, the only thing that's going to bring America together is people understand that there is no other system that will allow them the freedom to do what they're doing right now. Let me give you an example. China has, 1.3 billion people approximately? They have, from COVID, a death rate of 0.35% per 100,000. This was on PBS and everything else. Now, the United States, most advanced medical society in the world, supposedly, our death rate is 202 per 100,000.
Yeah.
So it's time to quit playing. China didn't play. They made it mandatory.
Yep.
You got vaccinated or they come in your house and took you out. And they showed it on TV, I'm taking guys out. Now, you aren't going to have an America if you're under a pandemic constantly. So it's time to stop playing with the loudmouths that try to overthrow our government, which we're more interested in what General Milley, he stopped Trump. He told everybody, if Trump gives an order, don't do it. We know that.
Right.
I'm interested in who is behind trying to overthrow our government.
We're going to find out.
Those people are resisting subpoena.
We're going to find out, Steve. I said.
Well, I hope it's in my lifetime.
I said months ago that he tried to create a coup, and we're going to find out eventually that he did try to create a coup. Now,
it wasn't coup. It was attempted overthrow.
That's what I'm saying.
My God, we had the House in session, we had the Senate in session, the Vice President was on the property, everybody but Trump. And he's down the street saying, yeah, go on the Capitol, I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
He went the other way, as usual.
Yeah.
But it was an attempted overthrow of our government. And those people ought to be tried as traitors.
Well, I hope that it wakes up some conservatives who have willy-nilly followed him no matter what. He did something this past weekend. I wanted to kick the TV when they just announced that the Arizona dingbats that did that count found that Biden won by more votes than they had originally turned in. He goes,
the cyber ninjas.
Right. And so he goes to Georgia and says that he absolutely won in Arizona.
Yep.
I'm looking at
but
the TV.
But where was the media challenging that?
I'm looking at I'm looking at the TV going, are you serious? You're going to stand up there and tell that bald-faced lie when they just Friday said that he won more votes than what was originally reported, and you stand up there and tell that lie. And here's the part. You know what you're dealing with? Well, here's the part that blows me away, Steve. These people are still following him.
Yeah.
They're following this lying man.
Let me give you a parallel universe of the same mentality. How about the pay-for-pray preachers on Sunday? That the people follow them and send them money and believe in them, and they know they're frauds. I remember the one guy, if you don't send me $7 million, God will call me home. Bye. You know, but it's the same mentality. These people they don't have the capacity to reason for themselves.
Yeah.
They see a cause, so they gotta wave the flag. I mean, somebody took a Confederate battle flag, which, by the way, was only used in 2 battles in the whole Civil War.
That's true.
And they lost.
That's true.
But they took it into the House chamber and displayed it. Now, that's not an American.
Nope.
That is not. That's somebody trying to overthrow my government.
Yeah.
And this is ridiculous. These sentences I'm hearing. The guy with the horns, he's ratting everybody out to get 4 years instead of 20. He should be given life or shot.
Yeah.
I mean, Rudy, I don't know, man. I'm old school, but I enjoyed freedom, and I'm not giving it up easy.
Yeah, that's for sure, my friend. That's for sure.
So,
thank
I'll
you,
let
sir.
somebody else talk, but take care.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure. I'll tell you, it's like, it's just mind-boggling. They just look at it, go through and tell all these lies over and over and over.
What do you think about the possible release of Hinckley?
That's pretty interesting.
That's kind of fascinating. It's like rewarding him for attempting an assassination on a Republican. You know, it makes you wonder, is somebody trying to recreate something else in history that could be added to the story? I mean, that's the guy that could do it. I don't know if I'd want to release him.
He was certified as mentally unfit when he shot Reagan. So
at the time, but can people come out of that? Can they survive beyond that? Can they come back from, say, a mental illness or a mental illness
I think so.
event?
I think so. I think people can be successfully treated for a mental condition. Yes, I do.
I'm thinking he'll never get released, though. He'll come up for parole or something, but they'll always pass on it because of who he tried to kill. And that raises another can of worms in a hornet's nest.
Yeah, he's been in for like 40 years or so.
Oh, yeah. He's got to be getting old.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
But you look at Sirhan, they didn't consider him, not even Charles Manson, and they really killed some important people.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Well, every time Manson came up, he got rejected.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, which it should have. He should never seen the light of day again, ever. I want to say that this Haiti thing is bothering me. I sent a message to Anaya, And I'm asking her to come on to the show next week to talk about Haiti. I have a neighbor who is a Haitian, and I may talk to him and see if he would be interested in coming in and having some dialogue. I'm not comfortable with how they're treating the Haitian people. I'm really not comfortable. I think they have been through unadulterated hell, and to send them back, I don't even know if you needed to have somebody spell it out to you why they would be trying to get here. I mean, the reasoning for why they would be trying to get here are so obvious. And I think what really touched me, I saw a young guy with his family, and he said, "It is so dangerous. You're going to send me back to that place, and it is dangerous. There's no jobs. You could get murdered in the streets." And I thought to myself, wow, we don't seem to have the kind of compassion that I think we should have for a neighbor so close to us as Haiti. I'm just not comfortable with what we're doing and how we're treating them. I think there should be more flexibility in trying to provide them with some relief.
And the relief gets to the people instead of the government people.
Exactly.
It's to the people.
Right. We know that part of the problem in Haiti has been the government officials who were corrupt and was taking the money. But if we got the people on our shores, I think we should, If you got a different opinion, the phone number is 340-1590. That's 340-1590. I'm very, very, very uncomfortable with that. And I don't want to think what I'm thinking about how we're treating Haiti. So I'm going to move on here. I decided tonight I'm going to try to deal a little bit with this Build Back Better plan. There is a book, Evil Geniuses, written by Kurt Anderson. He does chronologically what the conservative movement did to alter the framework of our economy. It was a purposeful plot that has worked better than they ever thought possible. And in that process, we have left the American people behind. All of the, just think about it. For those of you that are my age, think about what it was like when you were a teenager going into college or trade school or wherever. How much hope you had for having a better life and a better job and moving out on your own. I know for me, that was the big one. Everybody wanted to move out on their own. And today, it's a different animal. It's a different animal, and it's tough for young folks to make it. And one of the things this Build Back Better plan does is it's trying to do something similar to what Johnson did in the Great Society plan, which most conservatives hate. But at some point, we have to do something about uplifting our people. We are quick to uplift others. I don't know if you saw the amount of expenditure we spent over $2 trillion in Afghanistan. And we left God knows how many billions of dollars worth of equipment there. Although the generals say that most of it has been rendered unusable. I don't know if that's true or not, but we spent all of that money. Some of that money could have gone to help us get better housing, which is a problem. Get prescription drugs for people who are poor, but we haven't invested in our own people. So one of the things that this plan does, and let me sidestep for a second. One of the complaints, and I heard Manchin say it the other day, he doesn't want us to turn into a dependent society, whatever that means. But I think we have to do different than what we're doing now. One of the things that the Build Back Better plan proposes is to ensure that post-secondary education is accessible and affordable for young adults, and that students who enroll are ultimately successful. So that includes investment in historically black colleges and universities, and tribal colleges and universities. So he sees this as important, and so do I. And some people are really complaining about the fact that he wants to offer tuition-free school for 2 years for students. And I guess most of the people that I've heard comment about it on Facebook, why should they get it when I didn't get it? My God, what a selfish thing. I didn't get it. I had student loans. I had to pay for it for years. And I had paid it off one time, and because I was young and didn't keep all my records, they said I didn't pay it. I had to pay it a second time. But do I begrudge other people from getting that help? The answer is no. And you shouldn't either. You pay for people's high school every year when you pay your taxes, even if you have no kids in school. Even if you're single and you own a property, you're paying for people's kids to go to high school, because we do that as part of the American family. What the other aspect that he wants to do is build capacity of the existing workforce development systems. As you know, we have a very active workforce development program here in St. Lucie County. One of my friends has a job that he has secured through workforce development and has been there for 6 years now. So I see nothing wrong with that. Here's another one that's kind of on the innovative side, like we're paying for the 2 years of college. Now, let me just say this to you about that also, backing up to that again. You know, in the state of Tennessee, that governor made 2-year colleges free some years ago. So if you're a resident of Tennessee, you could go to a 2-year college for free. So what Biden's proposing is really not radical at all. And if you know anything about California for a long time has allowed residents of California to go to the state universities with financial assistance from the state. And we got Jay on line 1. Yes, sir.
Okay, how you doing, Rudy? I hope you're doing okay, man.
Yeah, okay,
Wow.
yeah.
Yes, that's you hit a sore spot with me on that about the college and paying for it, tuition. I remember as a youngster, I didn't take advantage of it right away, but I was very fortunate. I had the GI Bill, so I did use that to get some training and other. But in New York, when I was growing up in the '60s, early '60s, if you were a resident of the state of New York, you had free tuition, or you had to pay for was your books.
Yeah.
And then it changed, but from that time and earlier, in the '50s, was all that's the way it was. If you had the right score coming out of high school, you qualified for tuition to go to college, and that's with the way it was. And people didn't make a lot of money, and it wasn't a lot of cash going on around the country like it is now. But they were able to do that. And I listen to the politicians now, and they talk about they can't do this and they can't do that. And I remember when it happened.
I know.
It was happening in my lifetime. Come on, it's so hypocritical for them it's the priorities. All of those things that's in those bills that Biden is trying to pass are priorities for people to survive and to better their lives. It's not the thing that kills me, and it was so depressing, is that there's only a handful of people in this country that want the millionaires to make more millions and billions. And if you're looking at them in Congress, you're looking at the Senate, and that's what they are, because they're getting kickbacks. They got all kind of deals. O'Connell, him and his wife, almost billionaires because of the deals they made. Got away with all the stuff with the banks and different industries and back and forth with China and all of that. And he can stand up there and say, well, we're not going to help you, or we're going to let this country go in default. He don't care because he's already, maybe he's rich already.
Yeah,
He's got
absolutely.
everything he wants. And
Absolutely, yeah.
You understand? It's just so sad listening to this. And the media knows that. They know everything. They know his whole history, but they will not bring it out so everybody will know exactly where McDonald's coming from and how deep. All he's thinking about is getting down on Biden, want to bring him down, and winning the next election, and that's more important to him than these 360 million people in this country.
But you know what, Jay?
Huh?
The people, to me, that are amazing are the people that keep supporting them. When they're not benefiting them, they're hurting them.
Yeah.
People in Kentucky are poor and don't have, they have a lot of welfare in Kentucky, and he doesn't do anything to try to help uplift people. He tries to protect businesses. That's it.
That's their main objective, and that's all they want to do. And it's so sad that the people can't see it. But I think people are catching on, and I think that's why they got all this voter suppression all over the country. Right here, in Florida, Ron DeSantis is falling into that because he wants to run for president, so he wants to be able to gravitate and get all of Trump's all the supporters that he has by doing all these devious things and just taking advantage of the people in the state and doing everything, and then they're just it's just sad that what's going on here. But that's where we at in this country. And these bills that's in the Senate this week is going to be the way it turns out is going to define what kind of country are we going to be like. Hungary? Are we going to be like some of those countries like that where they had the same program. It's like a blueprint. And Trump, they all know it. They know exactly what they have to do. If you deny the majority of the people to vote, and just have it under control where you can win every time, they got that. They got that under control, unless they do away with the filibuster and let us go ahead and do the Voters' Right Act and eliminate all of those things that they're trying to do. And there's so many things that can happen to change, but it's just a matter of them having enough heart and enough nerve to just go ahead and say, look, we're going to do it with the filibuster, and we're going to go ahead and pass these bills because it's going to help the American people. That's what we're here for. That's why we're in Congress, to help the American people. They got to stand up, take the bull by the horns, like they used to tell me in the military. Sometimes you got to take the bull by the horns and look them right in the eye and say, this is for the people. We're not playing around, and this is what we're going to do whether you like it or not. And that's what, Biden's got to do that. He's got to stand up, and he's got to let it. He knows what's right. He's been around a long time, and he knows how the system operates. And he knows he can do it. And you just have to do what he's got to do to make sure that the people don't suffer. Yeah. They will suffer if they don't pass any of these bills and let the country go in default. It's going to be a big thing. It's going to hurt a lot of working people, and a lot of people trying to make it, kids and everything. It's just, and healthcare.
Well,
there's a lot of things in those bills that's going to help people all the way around get on their feet.
One of the things we've got to do is we have got to get that voting rights bill passed.
Oh yeah, no,
because that is as critical, and I am very much in favor of what he's doing, which is why I took the time tonight to try to go through part of this plan.
Yeah.
But the voting rights thing is critical importance because the conservatives have now come to the conclusion, rightfully so, they cannot win the popular vote.
Right.
Because the majority of Americans do not agree with their philosophies. As upset as they are about it, the majority of Americans just don't believe in their philosophy.
Right.
So the only way to continue to get their way is to cheat the vote. Now, there's other ways to do it, just like, and somebody called me up to tell me about how Democrats, how black people used to be Republicans. Well, that's true. And I'll bet you were like me. My father and all of his friends, I think, were all Republican. Until...
Back in those days, yeah.
Yeah, till FDR came along.
Yeah.
And he made some changes toward the people.
Right.
And then Johnson came along and he went further changes toward the people. And then all the black people came to the Democratic Party. Not people just weren't born Democrat. The Democratic Party went out and earned the support of black people. And I have said it on this show, I can't imagine how many times Republicans could earn the votes of black people because black people, what they don't understand, are basically conservative. It's the crazy stuff that drives us away to say we can't be a part of that.
Yeah, that's the thing that I think that's got them hands stuck to the Republicans is the craziness, and the white supremacists and all of that. All
yeah,
the
that stuff.
They kind of like giving into it. They're giving into it, and they're going along to get along.
Yeah,
and it's hurting them, and they know it, and so they can't change it now since they went this far. So they just might as well figure they'll go all the way and just put in voter suppression since they control a lot of the state houses, and that's what they're doing. And we will see what happens if we can get that. We got to make sure that we go ahead and do this filibuster, get this voters' rights bill passed, John Lewis bill passed, and get that off the table, and then make sure we can go back to normal again. And like here in the States, because I know they're getting set up to do a lot of damage here in Florida.
Oh yeah.
They want DeSantis and Rubio and all of them. They don't want them to be. Rubio's in trouble because she's running against him, and he's gonna have a hard time with her.
Yes, he is.
He's gonna have a hard time trying to beat him. And so there's a lot of good things. We just have to make sure we have all hands on deck, and everybody has the right to vote, just like we've been doing for the last elections, all the elections before us here in Florida, which was going. We didn't have any problems here in the state as far as voting goes. I work on the voting law. I'm a poll watcher. I'm there. I'm involved in all the stuff that goes on, and we had no problems. Everybody knew what they had to do, and all the ID and everything. Everybody's told what to do, what they have to bring, and that's it.
Well, thank you, my friend. Always good to hear from you.
Anytime, man. You have a nice evening.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Good old Jay.
Yeah, Jay and Steve, boy, they were two of my faithful listeners. One of the other things that the Build Back Better plan wants to do, which is very, very thoughtful, he's trying to provide some assistance for people who have to take care of their families. Like if they got an elderly mother or father that's sick and they need to take care of them, give them some help so that they continue to be part of the labor force and yet provide some help for their loved one. There's a lot of countries in Europe that already do that. You know, they already do that, which is to provide that help for loved ones that are incapacitated. One of the other issues he has is universal pre-K, free universal pre-K. I think that's very good. That gets kids going in the right direction early on in life. You know, the kids can go and begin to stimulate their minds and their thought processes early in life. You know, and the more, you know, when the superintendent was here, Mike Lannon and I were pretty good friends. He said, Rudy, he said, you know what some of the differences are between the kids that come from a poor home and the kids that don't? He said, language. Think about the words. The kid in the poor home is not surrounded by a variety of words or all kinds of words, as opposed to a kid that comes from a more affluent home. The amount of words that surround him or her is probably tenfold. And I had never thought about that before, but you know what? That makes an awful lot of sense, don't it, Cliff?
Yeah. Well, the vocabulary is important, and if it's limited, you're going to hear more slang, more expletives. All those words that have to be bleeped out.
Yeah, so, and then he wants to help people with child care. Now that's a big one, because that cost of child care is really expensive, and in many cases people have to even determine whether or not the wife can work, because the cost of her working in the child care could outweigh the cost of her bringing in the additional income. So that's a tough one. And he wants to create a national comprehensive paid family and medical leave program. So it will allow 12 weeks of paid parental, family, and personal illness leave. So that one I know is giving people a lot of agita. And while I think that one is also very helpful, if there was anything that they had to strike, I guess I'd have to say that could be modified anyway for 12 weeks of paid parental leave. But we'll see. It certainly has some merit still. Significantly expand the child tax credit and deliver it monthly. So, you know, he temporarily put the child tax credit in place. But what he's trying to do now is to make the child tax credit permanent. And here's another one. Housing, affordable housing, and access to affordable housing. that began to come apart under Reagan, the conservative hero. He was the one that basically put the kibosh on affordable housing. And, it's long overdue that we go back to trying to create some affordable housing. The newly elected to-be mayor of New York City, I saw him on a program just the other day. I don't know why I can't call his name. And they were asking him about homelessness in New York City. And he said, I think I have a plan to fix this. And he said, what I would do, he said, there's hundreds of hotels in and around New York City that are vacant. And he said, as opposed to trying to create a new facility, we could take some of those places that are empty, rehab them, and make them into affordable homes. Well, my God, that's a pretty doggone good idea. And one of the things that's in Biden's proposal is the construction or rehabilitation of more than a million affordable rental housing units. So that's what he wants to do. And okay, notice what is construction or rehabilitation. So taking a page from the New York City mayor's thought process, there's enough properties available to create some housing. And I would dare say one of the places, although it's sad to say, I think the malls may eventually be a place where some housing prices could be made, because the malls just keep going under. They're just not the places that they were when I was a kid, which was everybody wanted to go to the mall. So I think if you think about the homeless, when I think about homeless, I think about those tents in California, that tent row that they have there where all the people are lined up in tents on the street. That's pretty sad. And while I remember growing up in Philadelphia, I really don't remember homelessness at the magnitude that we have now. I really don't. But we had in Philadelphia, as I know there was in New York, and in Camden, there was plenty of affordable housing. Maybe not the place you want to live, but you wouldn't have to live on the street. And it may be a little dicey to be moving in and out of there, but at least you had a roof over your head. But I really don't remember. I don't know. I have to ask my sister or my uncle who might be listening. Do they remember that? I just don't remember seeing that. Every once in a while you might see a bum, but to see the massive homelessness like we see now, do you remember seeing any of that growing up?
Not really. Well, there'd always be somebody panhandling out there.
Yeah.
But as far as what we see today, no. And now we've got all of these nonprofits out there, though, that are taking care of the homeless. They're finding new ways, like what Roxy's doing. Everybody feeds the homeless, so they don't specialize in feeding the homeless. They help the homeless with personal sanitation items like soap, bathroom tissue, adult diapers when needed, those kind of things. And I think when prisoners who are homeless, when they do get out of jail, I think they get a care bag sometimes. So it's been arranged somehow, but it's a wonderful thing to be able to help in ways that nobody else is thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get Roxy back on here. I was with her at a meeting a week ago this Friday. I was with her, so I'll have to get her back on here so I can get her to talk about her program, which is, as you know, I know you're very much in favor of it, and so am I. She does some really good stuff.
Oh, she pinned down our politicians who are running for city council, things like that, when was asking them point blank, what do you think about the homeless situation? There's no homeless shelters for humans, but there's plenty for the dogs and cats.
And what did they say?
Well, they say that, they might be interested in going in that direction at some point. Of course, all the hurdles have to be jumped through, but they'd be willing to perhaps look into it, which is good, because I don't think anybody really plans on, I guess I'm just going to become homeless because it's easier to sleep under the bridge than pay rent or a mortgage. And there's guys, when I was down by the Riverwalk, there were guys that were sleeping under the bridge that I caught at ATM machines when their Social Security would kick in each month.
Wow. I'll tell you, that's something. All right, so what Biden's trying to do is create some affordable housing, and like I said, I just do not remember, maybe because I was too young or I wasn't aware enough of it, but I just don't remember the homeless being like it is today. And Steve, yes, sir. Yes, Steve.
Rudy, Steve here. I've been listening to everything you've been talking about today, and I really am a big supporter of doing anything and everything that we can to help for the education of our children.
Okay.
I guess my problem is this. I'm dealing with my own history. I'm 72 years old.
Okay.
My mother and my father, they never owned their own home. And they spent their money on putting us in private schools because they felt that this was the way for us to go. I mean, right or wrong, that was a decision they made. I went ahead. I succeeded getting through high school. I didn't get a scholarship. And I went to the local community college. Then I used the money that I had saved from working from 14 years of age to 21 years of age to get into the University of Houston. It was my money. It was money that I earned on my own. These were not big jobs that I had. My father knew people, fortunately, who were able to create opportunities for me to make some money, either on oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico or in cold storage places. But I worked, and I worked. Then I went ahead. When I got to the University of Houston, I also worked there as well. I paid my tuition and my fees all on my own. Later in life, when I decided I wanted to go and get a master's degree to improve my opportunities in life, I took the money that I had and invested it in getting in. And I did get a loan from the federal government. Total amount, 2 loans in the amount of $5,000 each. And it helped me get through. I went ahead, I got my master's degree, and I paid off my loans. It took me a long time. I will not deny it. It took me a long time, but I paid off my loans. And then I reached a point in time in life when I was able to say, I've accomplished what I have wanted academically, and I've paid for everything on my own, either through work or through loans, and then paying off my loans through my work. I don't know if I see that happening today. And that's why I get a little resistant. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I get a little resistant when I hear about free tuition for this and that and everything else. Granted, I'm not everybody else, but I hope you can understand what I'm saying. That's why I'm a little resistant to all of this freedom of paying people's way through life when I myself worked my butt off to do everything that I could to pay my way through college. And I'm not a bright man. I'm not a brilliant man. I'm just a simple man. But I did what I did, and I did it on my own. And I asked myself, is it more difficult to do this today?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, it is more difficult. Listen, come on, Steve. What was tuition? What was tuition when you went to school? I'll tell you what, I can remember. I remember it like it was yesterday. You know how much it cost me to go to AIC in the fall of 1969?
Really,
it was $2,900 a year.
But Rudy, that was the price of $1 back then.
But I'm just saying, that was it, $2,900.
Yes, I understand that. But
I couldn't even afford to go to my school today.
You made $29 a day back then. Today, you're making more money today than you made back then. Am I right?
Are you saying that the wages that people earn have kept up with the rate of inflation for colleges? I'll say to you, there's no way.
Well, now let me say this. Now you've got a legitimate statement right there in front of you, and I'm not going to argue that. But here's what I'm asking: where's the effort? If somebody, okay, so I get where you're coming from. In other words, your feeling is where I'm at.
Your feeling is if somebody gets college for free, they have not put in the effort. So how can they appreciate or understand the value of what they received?
Perhaps that might be the cul de grace. Yes, that might be the truth.
Well, Steve, I gotta go. You hear the music.
I value everything that I have and everything I've done in my life. Everything I've gotten in my life, I've earned it from home and worked my butt off to make it happen.
Yeah, Steve, I gotta let you go. Call me back next week. We can finish the dialogue. Folks, I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the African American scene. God bless and be safe, and I will see you next Wednesday right here for the African American scene.
Archives of the African American scene can be found on YouTube. Look for WPSL TV.